Welcome to Sober Shenanigans, real talk and real recovery. We're just two garden variety alcoholics trying to get better one day at a time, trying to let you know that you are not alone. There are other people out there like you, here to help you and help you get through your struggles. I'm your main man, Stoff, and as always, with me is my man, Hunter Graham Primo. What's up, Primo?
Hey, buddy. How you doing? Thanks for the intro there, Greg. I got to tell you, this week was a great week. 34 years sober. Got to celebrate with my family, friends. I was able to go to New Orleans this week with my wife, who was honored as a Enterprising Woman of the Year. And
Nice.
I don't know. I'm not sure how she picked me, but we were up there, and on my sobriety birthday, I was walking down Bourbon Street going, how in the hell did I end up here after 34 years? But, I got some great food, some great music, and that stuff. I'm no longer a slave to it. I was able to walk through there and support my wife and be there and show up. So it was awesome. And
Nice.
That's my my little week.
Well, congratulations, man. That's such an accomplishment. 34 years. We talk about the length of your sobriety on the show a lot, and it's a big deal when you get that much sobriety. I'm really proud of you, and everybody in our home group and every around town is as well, man. Way to go, Primo. That's awesome.
Thanks, brother. Thanks.
No problem. Today with us, we have Geoff and Patty T calling in from Michigan. Some long-time sobriety with them. We're interested in their point of view on what it's like to be a couple in the program, to have a spiritual take on things, and what their take is on it and how they're living. So, Geoff and Patty, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Why don't you just give us a little background? You guys can go one at a time, and how you found sobriety, maybe where you were stumbling, and how you found your way into the sober life.
All right, I can go first. First off, congratulations on your anniversary. That's amazing. I get 11 years next Friday. So
Nice.
March 20th, 2015 is my sober date. Looking forward to that. We'll have some of the guys over and go to a night meeting. It'll be nice.
Also a
It'll be
big
nice.
deal.
Yeah. So what happened to me really was that my wife asked me to stop for one day, and we had planned to have people over that night for dinner. And she said, I need you to be sober at dinner. And for some reason, it just clicked inside. I'm going to do it today. I'm not going to sneak any alcohol. And by 4:00, something was happening inside my body. I didn't know what it was, but I became aware that my legs were beginning to feel like they were filling with water or sand. And at 6:00, I remember the guests got there. I sat down at the dinner table, looked across the table at my wife, and just shook my head like that. I just didn't know what was happening. And I walked upstairs and laid down. And I woke up at 2 a.m. 2 a.m. I was entering into delirium tremens. I didn't know that at the time. There was mom and dad were sitting on the end of the bed when my brother, who was very tall, was standing to the bed, and my brother was pointing at me, and then I realized that there was vodka bottles floating all around the room. Very scared. I'm not going to lie. It was terrifying. Things that were going on. I just kept saying, it's not real. It's not real. It's not real. The image of my mom and dad and my brother at the end of the bed was very off-putting. And there was like a soft glow around the three of them. The rest of the room was very scary. Keys hanging. There was people looking at me. And then at 4 a.m., remember, woke up again. My normal routine was to get up at 4 a.m. and then through this mental gyration, tell myself I'm going to drive my kids to school sober today, to eat some food. And the third thing was I catch with that every day. I thought those three things came to my mind. The first thing that came to my mind. And then every day, like a fog coming in under the door, the would come back and things would begin to shake and my heart would begin to race and my mind would begin to scream. I would wait for Patty to get up and hit the shower because she had to leave for work every day early. And the minute I'd hear that turn on, when she'd turn on the shower, it would trigger me and I would reach for the bottle that I got hidden in the bedstand, take a big drink of it, and I would pretend like I was asleep. And sometimes I would hear the hairdryer turn on, and that was like a free drink for me. Take another drink, and again, pretend like I was asleep or leave the room and downstairs. This particular day, I did that. I went downstairs and the chair that I sat in the basement and poured my first drink. I turned on the television program that I watched, the same program over and over and over, and then ultimately the same theme from the same program over and over and over. And I got up to get my second drink that morning, and wasn't quite sure what was happening. Like, this is weird because I can remember being an athlete, but at the same time, I could not even pull myself up. And I stumbled up, I fell again, and I wound up at the bottom of the stairs. And I remember looking up the stairs thinking that this was it. I was at this point. And I didn't know what was happening. Somehow I made it up to the stairs. And before you know it, I was in an ambulance. The main memory I have, either of you guys have ever rode in an ambulance, but you're staring at the ceiling of the ambulance. And the EMT was holding my hand like this. He's like, "You're going to make it. You're going to make it." I'm like, "Going to make it? What is happening here?"
Wow.
They put me into cardiac intensive care unit. And what had happened was my grown to twice the size of a human heart. And the muscle couldn't support it anymore. So I was just dying of heart failure. That's what was going on. That explained the water filling in my legs, that sensation that I was living in my own, if you will. I did 7 days in ICU, and the last day, they said, "We're going to let you out tomorrow, but first we're going to have the social workers come in and the heart doctor come in, and then your normal general doctor is going to be here, and your wife is going to be here." And when they said that, I said, "I don't want her in the room. Get her out of here." And she was literally like the last person on earth that was talking to me. And so I threw her out of the room. And she can tell you what happened after that.
So he not only threw me out of the room, he said I was the problem. And this was before I had Al-Anon in my life. So I truly believed that I was the problem. No matter what we did or what I did to try to fix his alcoholism, it never worked. You know, we had the house, literally a house at the white picket fence, a golden retriever, 4 amazing kids, you name it. We look good on paper, but we couldn't beat this alcoholism. So on the way home from the hospital, I called a friend of mine to complain about him, as usual. She threw something different out there to me. She said, "Why don't you go to Al-Anon?" Like, ugh. I had kind of heard it, didn't really know what it was. And she said, not only did she say, "Go to Al-Anon," she said, "Go to Al-Anon for you." Like, for me, I didn't know what that meant either. So I ended up at an Al-Anon meeting that night and very quickly learned a few things. One was that I didn't cause it and I can't control it and I can't cure it. And that brought like just such like relief. And then that alcoholism was a disease. I didn't understand that till that meeting. Even the doctors had told me that, and it just didn't sink in until I heard it from people who had been through similar situations. And then, you know, it kind of changed my perspective on his situation and realized that, you know, he wasn't this horrible, bad person, which he wasn't really, but I was pretty much, you know, thinking he was the problem. And that we were powerless over alcohol. I didn't get that. How could I be powerless over alcohol? But these people made me understand it. And so throwing me out of that room was really a turning point in both of our recoveries, because for the first time in 30 some odd years, I did not try to control his drinking, which was just like unheard of in our relationship. So when he did get home from the hospital, and at this point he had alcoholic neuropathy in his feet pretty bad, and he was using a walker and really pretty down and out after that whole experience. As soon as he was able to walk again and get in a car, he got himself to the store, got some NA beer, which turned into real beer, which turned into wine, which vodka was back in our life. Bingo. I mean, I can't even tell you how quick that happened. So one night I get home from work and he's super drunk, and I can't believe it. And this time I pause, I kind of shake my head and say, good luck with your drinking. And I turn around and I walk out the door. That's something I had never done in my life. It was super, super hard. But before Al-Anon, only had 2 other approaches. One was to engage. That didn't ever go well. And the other was to just completely shut down. And again, that never ended well either. So strangely enough, he followed me out into the driveway and he said, take me to a meeting. I knew where the meeting was. After years of, or not years, it was more like weeks, because I really didn't even know what AA was at that point either. And I poured him into a meeting, and he can tell you how that went.
Yeah. So I went to a meeting that night, super drunk, and they did a first step table for me. It didn't go well. Obviously, I was very combative, very scared. I do remember leaning into the car and telling Patty that she better not tell anyone I'm going to AA. And now here we are. Anyhow, that table, I got up to leave. I'm at the end of the meeting, and you could tell that I was not coming back. And this kid followed me down the hall. And when I say kid, I'm 60, so he was probably in his 20s. And he sat me down, and what really stood out was he was very kind to me, and he had these kind eyes. I mean, he had this look. And he said, Geoff, tomorrow, what I would do if I were you is I would go to another meeting, and he told me where to go. And I got home, and I remember the look on Patty's face was, unbridled hope. Like, oh my God, he made it to a meeting. And alcoholics are experts at raising hope and then crushing it. And so I told her I hated it, but there was somebody that got to me and told me what to do tomorrow. So the next day I went to that meeting, and I'm in the parking lot, and I look over and I see somebody from my high school years, and he's standing there talking to somebody, but I'm like, damn, he looks good. He was clear-eyed, and he was like having a normal conversation. And I just remember thinking to myself, what is he doing here? It was like, it didn't even click to me that he was in AA. It was like, why is he in this parking lot? And then it clicked, and I reached out to him. We met up the next day, and he had me read the doctor's opinion and Bill's story. And, he said, try to put your head on the pillow sober, which I didn't. But I did do those readings, and the phenomenon of craving starting after I take my first drink was a critical turning point in my awareness of what I was doing to myself by taking that 4 a.m. drink, that I was setting myself up for a day of trying to overcome something that mentally and physically there was no way I was going to overcome it. I always thought, hey, I would crave alcohol and then take a drink. It's like, no, the physical part that the doctor talks about is what was killing me. And so anyhow, I had read that, but then I had also hatched a plan that I would go to night meetings and then grab a bottle and cruise around. There's an island down in Detroit called Belle Isle, and you just drive around in circles. So that was my big plan. So my third meeting, this guy followed me out in the parking lot, a total stranger to me, and we just started talking. And we talked so long that the liquor store, which was across Mack Avenue and kitty corner to the church, closed. It was 10 p.m. and it closed. And I drove home that day and put my head on the pillow sober for the first time in 40 years. And the next morning, I called someone in the program and told him what had happened. And he said, "Did you ever think God put that man in the parking lot for you?" And at that point, I wasn't ready for that. But looking back, of course, that's exactly what happened. But at the time, I said, no, that can't possibly be correct. And that was followed up with, "Geoff, are you willing to do the work? I love helping people, but if you're not really willing to do the work involved, I'm not really interested in just being your Uber." And that really stuck to me. I didn't know what the work was, but I knew I wanted what he had. And of course, I just said, "Yeah, whatever you tell me to do, I'll do." And that's what I did. Before long, he put that 4-step right in front of me. And that's what changed everything. When I got that 4-step, the Joe and Charlie worksheet is the one that kind of goes around Southeast Michigan. I don't know if you guys use that, but I don't use it personally anymore, but that's what was given to me. And I remember doing my best to write that out. And boy, I've learned so much since then. But writing that out was critical. It was critical part of my recovery. And when I was taking my 5th step, I remember my mom had drank herself to death. And a big part of my 5th step was explaining how embarrassing it was. I was a little kid, and about my mom dying, and I saw her drink herself to death. And as I'm describing that, it occurs to me that she had lost her son a couple of years earlier. So my brother had died when I was a little boy. And that changed everything in my family. The entire family shifted at that point. In fact, the day it happened, Dad sat us in the back room, and I remember looking at Mom and my dad, my other brother, and you could see the walls going up in front of. You could literally feel it. The hearts were so broken. My brother was so amazing, and he was like the centerpiece. He was a freshman in college when this happened, but he was the center of our family, spiritually, the love fountain. I mean, just he was a great guy. Everybody wanted to be near him and listen to his stories and be a part of his life. And I remember looking at my mom and knowing that this was going to kill her. I had never seen sadness that profound in my life. It scared me enough that I walked out the door and went down and sat on the curb and just looked up at the spotlight and made up my mind about God. That's when I made up my mind about God. My thing was, I'm going to have a great life, and I don't care what it takes. I will have nothing but fun in my life. God is not going to be a part of it.
Was that your burning bush moment? Was that when the obsession was removed? Or did you still?
Absolutely. No,
still
absolutely. It was.
A little bit after.
No, so in my 5th step, when I talked about my mom, and I had that awareness come over me, the wall came down. And that wall had been there for how many years?
17.
Since I was, in high school. And came down, and I felt this crazy connection to my sponsor. It was like, wow, what is this? And you could just feel peace. And it was literally God revealing himself to me. I know that now. I didn't know at the time what it was, but I know that the obsession was lifted at that point. I remember going to do my 6th step, and the 6th step is so important. It's so critical that we do it right after this step. So this endless cycle of guys. It's funny how guys will fight this taking an hour to themselves. They'll be like, I want to go hit golf. No, we're not going to go hit golf balls. But they do. Or I'll do it after dinner. No, please. You just opened your heart for the first time since you started drinking, or more accurately, since your spiritual malady occurred. is not when you started drinking. It's always well before we take our first spiritual malady. Is well before we take our first. And I don't know. It was just like I went down, stared at the water, did a quick review in my head of the step work that I had done, but mostly I was just like, I couldn't believe how I felt. Like, what is this sense of peace that is just overwhelming me?
The relief.
Yeah. And that was the beginning of the rest. In that this, 100%.
That's right where it lands, right there. Go ahead, Stoff. You had something
Yeah,
you were going to say.
that's very inspirational story. And Patty, for you to, be with him for a long time and to see him go through this, did you said you had gone to an Al-Anon meeting, which kind of brought you to the fact where you could actually walk away. Did you kind of see it building up to this? In your mind, were you like, Geoff's going to get to a point that I have to do this, like, or was it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, what I had kind of was able to do was shift the responsibility for his drinking and recovery, eventually his recovery, onto him, rather than this me forcing it on him kind of thing. I had to step out of the way, I think, for God to be able to do his work and let him find his own light. I was a little in the way, I'd say. I didn't, after those first few meetings, I didn't really have a plan. I didn't know how it was all going to work out. I knew I needed to turn it over to God or to my higher power. And the tone also changed. When I said, good luck with your drinking, it wasn't, I don't love you or I'm done with you. It was more, I can't do this for you anymore. You need to do it for yourself. So that was kind of big.
Yeah.
That's
huge.
exactly what I needed.
Yeah, that's it. I can relate to that. I didn't get sober until my wife told me that this is not the life I want to live anymore. And you're not the man that I married anymore. And it was that when she did that and she kind of left me to myself is when I almost did the exact same thing. I didn't tell her, take me to a meeting, but I found one that day. I didn't know what else to do, where to go. I'd tried to quit many, many, many times. And kind of the same thing you were saying, Geoff. I had a routine where you hear something, all right, I can drink one. I knew that I could start at 2:00 and be blacked out by 5 before she got home. And then it was a cycle that I couldn't stop myself, even though I tried many times, without the person I cared for the most finally stepped away and did almost exactly what Patty did and said, this is not the life I want. Basically, good luck. And that was the push I needed. The person I cared about most, I couldn't imagine life without her. And I did the same thing. I found a meeting and I've been going ever since. And, the peace that I felt exactly kind of the same way a few days in, it was lifted, the obsession was lifted, and just how much better everything has gotten since, not exactly that day, but shortly thereafter. It makes you wonder why anyone would go back at this point, even though I went back many times. So I think it's an inspirational story that Patty had your back like that. Not only that, she was attending meetings to learn how to help you and help herself. And now you guys are kind of like a combo platter in recovery, which I really think is really cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Geoff, you had mentioned earlier, a couple of times you mentioned spirituality. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how spirituality plays a part in it for you and how you lean on that?
All right, before I tell you how I lean on it, how do we find it? A couple of observations I can make on writing this 4th step. Most of the guys struggle with harms to others, the first category. They're not sure what a harm is. They want to think about immediate harms like I punched someone or I stole from them. And they're not sure even who goes on the list. And I was the same way. I'm like, who did I harm? And I was struggling with that. And it was Patty. She said, why don't you start with your loved ones? And ultimately, I don't know, I've probably taken 100 people through the steps now. We go right to the loved ones, right to the family goes on this list. No matter what they say or think or do, the family is so affected, right? So we got mom, we got dad, we got spouse, we've got the kids, we've got the grandparents. We got 12 or 15 names right out the gate on harms. And I'm helping them write those first couple of names so they get the hang of what we're talking about here, you know? And boy, we sat with somebody yesterday who could not see that their behavior was harmful. I mean, the wall was just incredible. And it was like, I don't see it that way. I don't see it that way. I've learned that people have a truth that is their truth, that they could pass a lie detector test that is in place. And everybody's truth is a defense mechanism to a spiritual malady. Does that make sense? So when my brother died, and I'm a teenage boy, my wall went up. Everything I did from that point forward was a reaction to, like, I'm going to let people in, but I'm not going to let them in far enough that they can hurt me. So the wall doesn't come down. I begin to feel very disconnected and isolated in the world. But at the same time, I feel different when I drink. The wall comes down and I feel this insane connection with the people I'm with. And there's the obsession. The first time I drank, I was like, when do I get to do that again? Because it was the spiritual problem was in place. And then I introduce alcohol and it's the solution to the problem. Until, of course, it's not the solution. So very important that these guys get this harms to others written out correctly. It all hinges on that. If they swing and miss on that, then the resentments part, they're going to sit and read their resentments out loud and they're going to get sicker. They're going to try and convince their sponsor that these resentments are justified. And I've seen that. Well, they need help, right? What is a resentment? And you've got this resentment with these people, but the hidden ones with the loved ones are the ones that really make a difference. I'll give you an example. My dad was nowhere near on my fourth step. He just wasn't. He was like the best. He'd pick me up to take me as a little kid to t-ball. He was the coach, you know, and he would take me golfing and let me hit as many balls as I want. And he was great. So he's not going on any fourth step. Later on down the road, I'm a couple of years, 3 years into this writing. I'm doing grief recovery. I'm exploring all avenues. And it just changed my thinking on my dad. And I said, well, what would I change in him, if anything? Boy, did that set me on fire. What would I change in him? Well, how about this? Every time my dad went to his yearly physical, they said, Mr. Tischbein, you need to lose weight. You need to get this blood pressure under control. You need to watch this, this, and this. And he'd come home and he'd say, this year I'm going to do it. And I can remember just sitting there going, Dad, you're going to do it. You're going to do it, right? And years later, he drops dead of a heart attack and leaves me the last man standing in the family. And I mean, the last person standing in the family. So now I'm all alone. And you're telling me that's not something that needs to be dealt with for me to get better?
Yeah.
Of course it is. Course it is. Because as a man, I look at life through my dad's eyes. Who am I becoming as a spiritual human being? And I'm thinking always, would my dad agree that I'm praying all the time? Would he like the fact that this is consuming my life, this recovery? Would he like the fact that I've enrolled in a Catholic seminary just to study, just to be around people that are seeking God? That's my main thing. Am I seeking God today? It wasn't, but I was scared because I look at life through my dad's eyes. And until I do that writing, what would I change about my loved ones is the best way to think of it. So if you take the harms list and you just take it over to your resentments, and then my mom, same thing. I'm like, she was the bomb. I love my mom. Oh, well, wait a minute. Drank herself to death. He told me she would quit smoking all the time. You know, X, Y, Z. These are things that until I change the framework of my thinking on what a resentment is, I would have dragged those those anchors, those resentments are anchors for a spiritual life, right? I would have dragged them along with the anchor bumping along the bottom, thinking, how can I get better? Why, people with 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, you hear about them going out. You hear about them saying, I don't feel connected to God. They don't know that they're dragging an anchor along that's from their childhood. Because in AA, the basic old school, Chris used that phrase, old school, is to peel the onion, and we're going to peel it towards something that is insanely painful to the heart. So for me, I'm peeling towards my brother's incredible suffering, death that he went through. Now, how hard am I going to peel towards that? Okay, I can answer that. Not very hard.
Yeah.
There's going to be resistance every step of the way. So I discover halfway through my amends, I just write a note because I couldn't shake this black cloud. I just write a note. Dear Donnie, that was my brother, right? I said, Dear Donnie, things did not work out the way we planned. I forgive you for leaving me. That's all I wrote. Two sentences. And I read that out loud, and that changed everything. An experience with God at that moment that was life-changing. And if you listen to the talk I sent you, I describe it in the end. We can talk about that a little bit later, but that changed everything. I mean, literally, my brother was at my side again, and he informed me, he said, I was with you the whole time. When you were sitting on the curb thinking about me, I was with you. When you were at the bottom of the stairs, how do you think you came up those stairs? Who do you think was holding your hand? He went through everything that had happened. Who do you think put Patty in your life? It was God. It was God. It was God. I mean, he just went through this whole. And at the time, I was being exposed to people that were really very, very spiritual, right? And they described it as being covered in mud, and you're running towards the light, and the mud's drying and it's coming off of you, right? The guilt, the shame, everything that you're carrying, it's drying as I run towards the light, and I'm breaking free, becoming free. And that's when it happened. And it was halfway through my amends. Lo and behold, right? And I've always said, before you are halfway through, to me, what that means is they've done 3 amends, which usually is what it takes to build up to the big one that they're avoiding. And then they get that 4th one done, and then all of a sudden, all the promises just like spill into their lap. So for me, it's halfway through the amends. They call them the 9 step amends. I don't know if Chris agrees with that. A lot of people say no, it's halfway through the 12 steps. But my experience is those things come true like a waterfall halfway through those amends. Because we do the easy amends first, the people that are like, hey, I've always had your back. I love you, man. You don't have to sit and apologize.
So
That's how the normal amends start.
I
Then
like
there's always these hard ones looming.
I like to call it the shame shivers, Geoff.
Yeah.
When all the
It
guilt and
is.
stuff, and then as we go through the process, we're relieved of that shame, and then we find God. But there's a part of that guilt that we start owning, and the responsibility that we take, for our behaviors. And then what happens is it's like, I don't even know. It's like an exorcism. It's a release. It's like, wait a minute, and it's kind of how it happened for me. I had a lot of similarities in my story to yours. I come from a big family, big Catholic family, and there's only 2 of us left alive. And so I watched a lot of pain and suffering, and alcoholism and drug addiction and death, and the guilt that I put on myself because of I mean, I was a horrible kid. And the things that I did to my father and mother, I had to get myself straight so that I could make an amends. And I still honor that legacy today. Like, I know that I'm not done making amends. Like, I still have to carry that, like, okay, whatever it is, I still gotta show up and help the next person. So I'm feeling it. I'm feeling some of your stuff here. It's good. It's good stuff.
Yeah. So let me tell you what happened. I tried to start a podcast as well, and I was starting to sponsor a lot of guys. And after I had that moment on the football field, where I talked about the running with the mud and talking to God and all that, literally the next morning, 7 a.m. meeting, people are like, something's different in you. They're like, something has changed. And somebody asked me to work with them that day. And then the next day, another guy asked, and I was like, whoa, what's happening here? All of a sudden, I'm like, they want what I have, right? Because all of a sudden, I had God, in my heart, and people wanted that. But anyhow, one day, Patty called me. She's driving into work. I'm sitting there. My podcast turned into me just taping my thoughts about recovery, because I was sponsoring a lot of guys, and I had like this fresh thought. Every day it was like something new. And the phone rings, and it's her, and it's regarding my third amends that I made. And let her tell you what happened. This is really important.
Yeah, it is.
People
it's
are
important.
listening.
So, well, his first amends, we could go into how not to do an amends. That was in bed, lights off, no eye contact. I guess I have to do an amends with you, honey. I'm sorry I wasn't such a great guy. Okay, left me a little flat. Then another one was all about AA and how great he was doing in that. And, anything I wanted to know about AA, he was going to tell me. Again, yeah, good effort. Oh, and then the laundry list one was brutal. But again, good effort. Then we're sitting at one of our daughter's soccer games, a soccer practice, got an hour to kill. And he turns to me, we call it the soccer field amends. And he turns to me, looks me in the eye, and he said 3 things. And he said, I know that I hurt you. You did not deserve it, and I won't do it again. Those 3 things set me free. They brought down my wall, because I've been living with this fear of him drinking himself to death, and I couldn't shake that. It had become part of my entire existence. And no matter how much Al-Anon I had, that was still keeping my wall up. So those 3 things really, really set me free, set my heart, big change.
And instantly, when she said that to me on the phone, the Rolodex of people that I did half-assed amends with started. It was like, oh no. And I knew there was some I had to go back and clean up. Okay. And I did that. And it was powerful. And I began to teach the amends in a completely separate way. It was a comfortable way that I can talk to a newcomer who's thinking about amends. They're scared about it, but well before they take steps 4 and 5. And I'm talking to them about not being fearful of it. These are the 3 main things we're going to cover. And then we can go from there. And it seems to put them at ease. They all jot it down, they write it and they try and remember the 3 things. It's just an amazing.
That acknowledgement of hurt was,
Critical.
That's number 1 on the list for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure it gave you a lot of comfort when you heard that, Patty, and especially because he tried to make these half-assed ones prior, and then you could feel the warmth and the sincerity and the realness in that third one.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I can hear it in your voice when you tell the story. It's fantastic. Well, Bland, those are great stories, and really, Geoff, wow, what a winding tale of getting to your secure spot that you had. You had a lot of years behind you, from 17 to probably around 50 when you decided to get sober, and Patty was there the whole time, which is, I give her a lot of props for that. And you had mentioned something earlier, that your guys' success and the awesomeness that your life has become through recovery has worn off on a couple of your kids. And that's a great story too, if you might want to just kind of tiptoe into that a little bit about how they're doing, because I'm sure there's other parents out there that might want to hear it.
Yeah, 100%. And I can tell you, um, the youngest one is in college, okay, and she's out in Colorado, and every semester something um, very bad has happened. We've gotten a call from an ambulance or a hospital every semester, and then the dust would settle, and we get our hopes back up, and we didn't really know what we were watching out there and witnessing. And then the suicide attempts happened, and the second one, we knew exactly what to do. Okay, it was when she gets discharged out of the 72-hour hold, we will be standing there and we will take her direct to treatment. And that's easier said than done. And we dug around and found people and got advice and we called in a lot of favors and a lot of help. What do we do? She's in the other side of the country, and we drove out there, and or no, we flew out there, and she had a little car, and we put her in the car and we took her down to Momenta Recovery and Glenwood Springs, Colorado. It's right between Vail and Aspen for you skiers out there. Phenomenal women's program. And the point is, there was no doubt in our minds what had to happen.
Yeah.
Right? We couldn't just do a change of scenery.
Well, yeah. And I'll add too, we could also tell she was ready. All those other things throughout the
She lied about them.
This is very critical, though, that they have to be ready.
They have to be ready. The first time, the second time, the third time, it almost didn't even cross our mind because you knew where the wall was going to go up and there was just no way was she going to go. This one was rock bottom, which you can't define someone else's rock bottom. I thought his ICU was his rock bottom, but it wasn't. But, I guess we saw the opportunity and she did take it. She willingly went. She's been there 4.5 months. Now she's more in a sober living environment, getting a job, going to meetings, has a sponsor, all the stuff that I had to get him into Al-Anon too in the past 4 months. So he could learn about not managing her recovery, not counting her meetings, not worrying if she has a sponsor, let the program take over for her.
The things that you did for him.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Which he had to learn all that. So he's been going to Al-Anon regularly. We go to probably 4 meetings a week now.
Geoff, you let her in 2 sports, Geoff. That's great.
Yeah, thank you. The big thing you learn going to Al-Anon is the suffering that untreated alcoholics who are sober cause on their families. Boy, to hear these stories of the guys that don't, it's usually guys, let's face it. Al-Anon is mostly women and their husbands or kids. And when these men get sober and then they don't work a program, spiritual programs specifically, they turn to something. And it's horrific what happens to these families. And to sit in these meetings and it's like, my husband lost everything. He gambled everything away. Yeah, he's not drinking. My husband's got a girlfriend in Slovakia that he's giving all my money to. I mean, this insane thinking that happens, right? And there's just that pride that keeps certain people out of the rooms. I know it's maddening, but boy, that has such an impact on me in Al-Anon. It's like, I'm going to work a program here and it's going to be spiritually based. And if you want me to sponsor you, we're going to be really digging deep and seeing what is holding us back. That anchor I talked about, everyone has it. And there's certain things you can do about it. And once you discover what it is, it's such a fun process. It's like being a detective, Yeah, you just do a simple timeline.
Primo talks about it a lot. Primo, you always talk about just quitting drinking is just part of it. There's a lot more work to be done once you stop drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish that drinking was my only problem. That would be great because then I would have solved all my problems. No, I've got anything that makes me feel good is a problem. I abused cigars until they damn near killed me. Food is not necessarily an issue for me, but I've had health issues because of my lifestyle, and I've had to change it because I don't do things like normal people. I am a power-driven maniac that just more and more and more. It doesn't matter what it is, adrenaline. There's a reason why I don't own a motorcycle, because the speed would give me the thrill of something that it just filled another gap. When you talk about the spirituality of the program, I so understand that I need to keep trying to put God in place of those things. When I need this or something else fills me up, I need to put God in my life. And it's not easy. It's just not. I can tell you that through the course of my sobriety, I've had to recycle my program several times over. I love working with other people. I love to sponsor people. That's probably the one thing that I can say always works, keeping me on the beam. All the other stuff is, when you're young like I was and came in, I had to develop a career and a life, and I had to develop a family.
Yeah.
To go out there and make a something of myself. And so there was a pressure of all that. And sometimes I use that old alcoholic self. There's still some value in that streetwise kid, that I can walk through towns and I can understand what's happening around me, and I can get through things, but I don't have to hurt other people anymore. That's the
Right.
critical part that I realized. If I was hurting other people, I was a good chance I was going to get drunk. And in my first marriage, I wasn't a very good husband. I'm going to admit to it. Although I put her through a couple of rehabs, and she, God willing, she had her part to play in it too. But I stayed sober through it, and I had to get out of there and rescue my son at one point. But those are the challenges in recovery. I've had cancer. I've had a lot of people die, and so there are always moments that this program, it doesn't matter. It's always there, and the people in it. That's the
Yeah.
part that I always remember. So sounds like you're well on your way to a very strong foundation of helping others and other people getting the message. That's what this thing's about.
Yeah. So right before we jumped on, my future son-in-law was here, and he's in his coming up on 2 years right now. So he's marrying my daughter that has nine years. And the topic of discussion right before we jumped on here was fear. He was undergoing fear. He's got this big wedding coming up. He's got a new job. He's trying to stay sober. And we're talking about fear. And something happened a couple of years ago that taught me what happens to a human being when they experience fear, because I could visually see something that happened. And I just want to share this story because it'll help the listeners. Patty and I occasionally go rock climbing, at these indoor rock climbing gyms. So one day I'm there, I'm by myself, and I'm climbing. And the guys next to me, there's two guys next to me, and they're basically really advanced climbers, and they're going up and down the wall, up and down the wall, and they're having a great time. They're talking, and all of a sudden I look up and I said, "Hey, your rope came undone," and the guy's safety rope had come undone and had unhooked from his harness and gone up to the ceiling, and he froze. Okay. Now, this is a guy that's been climbing up and down this route for as long as I had been in the gym, and he freezes. And I go, "Dude, there is a safety ladder right next to you." And he says, "I can't see it." I go, "No, it's literally right." It was this close to him. I go, "Just reach your right hand over." And he's like, I can't see it. He kept saying, "I can't see it." What had happened was, when the fear of the being unhooked, when that fear overwhelmed him, his world of vision went like this. Now all he can see is right what's in front of him. That's it. So let's just say when my brother died, my life, right? Where am I going to find love? My source of love just died. My vision goes like this. And the only thing that matters to me is I don't want to feel this fear, right? So I've got this fear in place, and it's calling the shots on me. But that guy up on that wall, it was fascinating to see that he kept saying, "I can't see," and it was because of the fear. So when we look at what happens in people's lives that cause this fear, a simple divorce of the parents will cause incredible fear in a small child, right? And they develop a fear of, is it my fault? Am I unlovable? Whatever it is. And then the search for the solution starts. I need a solution to the way I feel, right? We get to Alcoholics Anonymous and we know the only possible solution is going to be a spiritual awakening or a shift or an encounter, whatever you want to call it. And then we got to look at, again, we write our fears down in that third category of the fourth step. And it's like the main fear, I call it the oak tree of fears. If you think of your soul as a garden and it's got little weeds popping up that are all fears, well, there's an oak tree in the middle that is, am I lovable? Am I going to receive the love that I need? That is the fear that drives everything. And when that happens to a human being and they have that fear driving them, I believe that addiction is only a matter of time. They will find a solution to that or it will kill them. So that's when we see Overeaters Anonymous, Sex Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, all the Drug Anonymous, AA, of course, spiritually broken people, if you want to use that language, that have that fear driving them, right? And it's that fear that's the killer. The wall goes up. We don't feel love, and we're searching for happiness, and we're consumed with it. It has to be out there somewhere. If I just get the next steak, the next automobile, the next trip, the next woman, the next bingo card, it doesn't matter. We're going to find it. Alcoholics are not bad people. I mean, we become very sick, but the solution is so simple. And it's right there. We get that harms list written correctly, that resentment. We find those resentments with our loved ones. We look back in our childhood and we discover, oh my God, I think my brother died. Maybe we should look at that. Where can I find forgiveness in my life? Ultimately, I wound up taking a course in grief recovery, and I wrote on basically everything that I could think of that upset me. And my rule of thumb for amends was, if I'm going to the grocery store and there's a person in there that I'm avoiding, I'm going to make an amends with that human being. You know what I mean? If I see somebody and go, oh, I screwed him over once, or he hates me now. If I had that gut feeling in a grocery store, I knew that I had to make an amends with that person later on down the road. In the amends, and they change you on such a deep level that bad things can happen later on in life, which is exactly what happened to me. I was taking my boat down Lake Huron by myself, 40-foot boat, and I ran it into a sunken island and steered one of the motors off, and then the other motor was all screwed up. And I'm all by myself, the boat's smoking. I limp all the way back, and I mean, I am all alone out there in this lake. And I get to this harbor, and it was the end of the season. There was just one fisherman there, and he helped me tie the boat up. And I walked down the dock into the store to find help, and it is a liquor store, and there is a wall of liquor. And I'm like this, right, from this accident. And I remember the first thought I had was, thank God I made those amends, because there is not one part of me that wants a drink. Not one part of me wants a drink. Can you imagine? Chronic alcoholic in that position in northern Michigan by himself, shaking like a leaf, and I'm looking at a wall of liquor. And then the lady behind the counter says, number one, what's wrong? But then she's like, can I get you some ice cream? And I'm like, you know what? I don't even want ice cream. I was trying to lose the weight that Chris mentioned in the beginning. And I'm like, no, I don't want to hurt myself. This need to hurt myself to change the way I feel is gone. And I just, at that thought, thank God I went back and did those amends correctly and made those hard ones that, a lot of people, So we say we're working a program, I'll end with this. We say we're working a program, and let's just say we actually meditate like the 11th step asks us to do. And we're learning about that and we're sitting in silence. That's what meditation is. I start my guys with 3 minutes. I'm like, I just want you to sit in silence, 3 minutes. I'm not asking for much here. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, but whatever surfaces, I want you to, talk about it. We're going to deal with it because this step literally opens, right? The lid comes off of our subconscious. Things bubble up. So when they bubble up, let's deal with them. But what happened to me was people were bubbling up like, oh God, how did you miss that amends? How did you miss that person? Well, because my 4th step, when I wrote it, I was so sick. Don't forget, when we write these, we're still spiritually sick. So if we just take that 4th step and say, that's my 8th step, we're selling ourselves way short. So as we go through the process and our heart goes like this and opens up, then all of a sudden we can see, just like that climber, we can see, oh yeah, we hurt a lot more people than we thought. So I got relatives that were scared. I got loved ones over here. I got people I didn't even, golf buddies who were talking behind my back. What do we do about Geoff? He's clearly out of control. People that saw me in the hospital. None of them are on my 4th step, right? Because when I wrote that, I was sick and I was scared. Not physically sick, spiritually. The wall is still there. But a good sponsor is going to let you talk your 5th step. He's going to let you because he knows that God is doing the work at this point, and he's going to allow you to go where you need to go in that discussion. A human being will go where they need to go to find God. If you leave them alone during their 5th step, there's boundaries, but you know what I'm saying. If I'm interrupting every single 4th step point that this guy's making to explain how it worked for me, I'm stealing from him the opportunity to let God do what God does. As a sponsor, it's my responsibility to keep the ego in check. I don't have to point things out at that point. There's plenty of time to talk about this stuff later, right? The 5th steps that go on for literally a year. Every time you meet with a sponsee, they got something for you because that subconscious is now bubbling up. And hopefully they're working an 11th step and it's becoming important to them. And that's what happened to me. It became the most important part of my life because there was so much healing that had to happen. So my higher power went from good morning, God. That was all I would say. Because don't forget, I made up my mind when I was a little kid about God. But the guys talked me into good morning, God. So I went with that. And I was like, wow, that felt good. And then a couple days later, I got on my knees and I prayed. And I'm like, wow, well, that was pretty cool. I did that in the 3rd step with this this guy that's helping me, but my own? Well, that's wild. Then I go with the whole universe thing for like a year, right? I'm going to pray to the universe. And then that's not working anymore. And I begin to pray to the spirit of my dad. And while this is all going on, I'm reading tons and tons and tons of spiritual authors, C.S. Lewis, Thomas Merton, Henry Nouwen, and I'm learning, but I'm skipping over anything that's Christian. I would just skip over it. But I'm looking for the lessons as I would read. And eventually the skipping over it part shifted, it went away, and I began to recognize I need boundaries in my life. And there are boundaries to my religion that are very clearly put there for me to become even freer. They're not restricting me like I thought. When you hire a nutritionist, they give you a list of foods to carry into the store. It's not a restriction. It sets you free. I no longer have to walk into that store and try and figure out what I'm going to do. What about this? What is this advertisement telling me? What's on this package? I've been given instructions that are very clear. This is what you have to choose from. And I walk into the grocery store, and for the first time in my life, I feel free in a grocery store. Not restricted, free. So that's why Christianity, Catholicism, it works for me. Because I accept that I need those boundaries. It's those boundaries that set me free. Look at any elementary school and you'll see the kids packed around the school at recess. But if there's a fence on the outer boundaries, you'll see the kids all spread out having freedom, right? The fence is a boundary, but it's setting them free. They don't have to huddle by the school. It's the same concept. It's the same concept.
Wow.
We always are the opposite of free until we understand what freedom really is. And it comes in this program, the interior life.
Awesome. Very, very inspirational stuff, Geoff. Man, for the listeners out there, if you're having a tough time quitting, whatever it is that you need to quit, you're not alone. There's apps and numbers and groups in your town, or call us if you want. Leave us a message, 813-625-25. Hit us up on Facebook. Taking that first step into a room or a chat or a group with people trying to get better just like you will be the best day of your life. Well, Patty and Geoff, it's been great having you guys on. That hour just flew by. Do you have some parting message that you'd like to leave with our listeners?
Work the steps. Come to AA. Don't ever give up. You can't do it wrong, right? Just if you hang in there, you'll have that moment and you will be a part of something that will not only change your life, but it will change the life of everybody you come into contact with. They call it the butterfly effect. And one sober person does change the world. And it's true. It's true. And if you've got somebody in your corner like I do, it's just that more amazing, right? Thank God.
Yeah, absolutely.
God bless
Patty,
you
what
guys.
about you? You got anything to say?
Thanks. No, thanks for inviting us and letting us share.
No problem. Primo, what's your final point for tonight's show?
Jeez. There's always, you always put me on the spot at the end here with my final point.
You'd think you'd have something ready to go by now.
I was thinking about it. I had it like a minute ago and then I lost it and then I had it. So I'm going to make something up here. Basically for me, people that love and care about us, they often need help too. And I think that one of the final points I'd like to make is that there is a support group for people that happen to fall in love with us alcoholics, because we are lovable at some point. But if they need help, there is a place for them to get help, and it's called Al-Anon. It's very important that they get some of that therapy for themselves. And the interesting thing, Geoff, this program really does work when you quit drinking. If you stop drinking alcohol, you can start the program. And a lot of people don't seem to get that, but it's amazing how quickly we grow when we remove the things that we're afflicted by. And it could be a number of different things. Alcohol is just a symptom. There's so many more things that we're afflicted with. And the opportunity to be of service is here. And I appreciate your service, sir. And you too, Patty.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for listening to Sober Shenanigans, real talk and real recovery. Worry, anxiety, and fear, it's all up in here. So give yourself a break. You're enough and you're doing great. I'm Stoff and he's Primo. And remember,
we're all in the same boat, fellas.
But our shenanigans are cheeky and fun.
Yeah, his shenanigans are cruel and tragic.
Which makes them not shenanigans at all, really. Evil shenanigans.
I swear to God, I'll pistol whip the next guy that says shenanigans.
Shenanigans! After all that, shenanigans! Shenanigans! Shenanigans!
What's all this?
Officer Bob Brady, I would like to reinstate my previous shenanigans. This whole carnival is a ripoff.
Excuse me, but I agree. These rides are really stupid. Chamber of Farts isn't scary at all.
Okay, let's calm down. People of South Park, do you declare shenanigans on the carnival people?
Yeah!
Okay, carnival people, do you accept this decree of shenanigans?
What the hell are you talking about? This whole town is screwy.
Well, that settles it. Everybody grab a broom. It's shenanigans!
So rehab, relapse, remorse, and recovery. Up early every day, blue skies all in front of me. Gratitude's the attitude, family and friends. I'm blessed to tell y'all about Sober Shenanigans now. You're not alone, you got groups almost everywhere. Trying your best, you're enough, don't even fake scared. It's a new life hack back where you ought to be. Bring your broke ass, come here, get recovery. Stoff and Primo, Shenanigang every day. Go and tell the world just no drinks today. Yeah, no drinks today.